Did you feel that the library was different when you first came there as opposed to about the time you left?
The library itself
Fox Point,
or the neighborhood?
the library to start with.
Yeah, the library changed. It changed a lot. When I first started working there were a ton of kids. We would get the person who was working upstairs, Johnny Brito, he would go and get kids from South Providence and over from Camp Street, and he would bring those kids over because they didn't have much activity over there as far as a boys club at the time. And so we had those kids, and then we had a lot of neighborhood kids. So it was like working in a school cafeteria. That's how noisy it was. And by the time we left, I left, yeah, there weren't that many kids. And then the boys club wasn't sending their kids down. They had gotten really tight on where the kids were and who was around the kids, which
Right.
was good and bad.
So the fact that there were fewer kids later on was not so much because there were fewer kids in the Fox Point neighborhood, but because the Boys and Girls Club wasn't bringing them in as heavily.
Well, it was both. It was both of that. Both of those factors. A lot of the landlords in the area felt that they could get more money from college students. So they kept raising the rent, and the families couldn't afford to live there anymore. So a lot of the families that were there eventually slowly moved out of Fox Point completely.
Yeah, so it's hard to separate neighborhood changes from library changes, right?
Yeah, it is. It is, because like I said, when I first started working there, it seemed like kids were coming out of the woodwork, which it was good. It was good and bad. I mean, they were all good kids. We didn't, in my whole 32 years, I can only think of two that I would say were really not very nice kids.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, considering the number of kids I worked with working in the library. Yeah, we had a lot of really, really nice, great kids.
And I think a lot of that is a testament to how the staff treats kids.
Yeah, well, we treated them all like they were our own.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't let my own daughter, either one of them, do something or say something, I wouldn't let somebody else's daughter or son do it either.
Yeah.
And they all knew that. They all knew we were fair. When I first went there, because I was new, there were some kids and adults that would say, oh, I was being racist because but we had largely a Native American and Cape Verdean Black community. I mean, we also had the Portuguese, but the Portuguese moms, and they didn't say too much because most of them couldn't speak English, and they were very, very strict, much stricter than Yvonne and I were. But so if we put them out, those mothers were like, yeah, good, they deserved it. But yeah, we had a couple, but then once they saw how, yeah, if Johnny was bad and Joe was bad, they both went out. Didn't matter what color, what religion, or what nationality, didn't matter. If they were naughty, they were out.
Did your relationship with PPL change over the years?
Yeah, I became disillusioned in the fact that the staff ended up finding out that when the library director, Dale Thompson, had asked the staff to take volunteer furloughs, and a number of the staff did. One staff member is still working for the library. She had just bought a home. And she took the furlough. And then when we found out that Dale had given herself and her administrative staff a large raise, that was very disheartening, because the staff all cared about the library. We all loved what we did. We all loved working for the library. And yeah, we could all understand how everyone in the higher ups all got more money than the rest of us, but we felt that an equal fair share would have been better. So that was a little disheartening. The other thing was Dale kept wanting to close the small libraries. And the smaller communities were all the poorer communities. Not to say Knight Memorial wasn't a poor community. It was, but they wanted to close that one as well. And that was upsetting. We all worked very, very hard and wanted to promote the libraries as much as possible. I still do. I still push books in libraries, not as much as I did in the library, but I don't have the people coming in asking for books anymore because I'm not there.
Well, Fox Point itself was under threat and got closed and moved around several times. Were you there when any of that happened?
No. Phyllis Pacheco, I believe, was there. I know she worked in the bathhouse along with Alice Travers and John Santos, and both Alice and John have passed away. So I couldn't refer you to them, but Phyllis was there, and Phyllis, they all helped set up Fox Point where it is currently now, in the basement of the Boys and Girls Club. It was great working at Fox Point. I loved working at Fox Point. I know not everyone does or did, but I loved working there. It was, when I first started working there, I have to admit, not being so much involved in the inner city. East Providence is a city, but it's like the suburbs. And I worked in the school department there, so I got to know a lot of the kids and parents and stuff at the school. So when I worked for the library, that was a big thing. I mean, everybody said to me, "Oh, you don't want to work at Fox Point. Oh, it's this, it's that, and it's all these drugs and everything." And when I first started working there, I would pull up and I would park my car and I would go into the library, and the whole time I was in the library, I would sit there and I would be praying, "Please, Lord, let them leave my car. Please let me, at least, they could take the doors, but just leave the wheels so I can get home." And it was quite a different environment. I mean, when I first walked down, one of the first few times going down the stairs in Fox Point, there was just about every bodily function on the stairs. There were, alcohol bottles. There was a smell of alcohol. There was smell of urine. People would come down and urinate on the doors till they just rotted the doors, the bottoms and everything. And a big push in that was when I started at the end of June, and Yvonne Smart was transferred. Phyllis Pacheco left. She wanted to be a chef. So she left and went to, RISD was doing a program back then, and she went there to study to be a chef. She was excellent. I loved working for Phyllis. She's a lovely, lovely lady. When she left, Yvonne Smart started working with me in October of 1987. And slowly, Yvonne just, if she heard anyone out in the courtyard, she would jump up, run to the door, and hit the door with like all the force she could possibly do until the door would bang against the building. And that would startle anybody out in the courtyard doing anything. And if they were out there trying to sell drugs or relieving themselves to collect, make that better. Yeah, she would yell at them and cuss them up one side and down the next and tell them they had to leave. This was library property. They couldn't hang around in the courtyard. They couldn't do anything. In fact, the first time she did it, I didn't know she was doing it. And I jumped up and thought I should go with her. And then it's like, no, I have to stay here. And it's like, should I call the police? What should I do? And I didn't. And by the time I was thinking all these thoughts, the next thing I know, Yvonne comes back through the door. And I said this at her retirement party. I said, I swore I saw steam coming out of her ears and her nose. And yeah, she was like a dragon out there. And I then realized, no, it's okay. So yeah, she worked hard. If we heard anyone out there, even didn't matter, kids, adults, who it was, if they were in the courtyard, they had to leave. They couldn't hang around out there because it was more hidden. There was more trees around the courtyard, so it was more hidden. And people would go down there and they would sell drugs down there. Like I said, relieve themselves and do whatever. I'll never forget the very first Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, we had the inside doors were always closed. And I saw this little boy run up to the doors and look out the glass on the sides. And he'd come back and he was kind of giggling and laughing. And I thought, what the heck is he doing? When I opened up the door, there were two teenagers sitting on the heater making out. And I went, oh, okay. I went home that night and I asked my husband to make some door wedges. And on that Friday, when I came back from the Thanksgiving, I had the wedges and I wedged the doors open. And you should have seen those teens open that door and they wouldn't come in. They would look and they would say, oh my God, they could see the whole library from there. and that curbed that. So yeah, we had that going on.
So do you think that got better over the years?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. When we kind of let everybody know that was library property, or yeah, you're not going to come in here and make out, because if you're going to do that, we're all going to watch. And that wasn't something they wanted. So yeah, that all kind of curbed.
If you were to think of people from the Fox Point area that you think were really important to the neighborhood, do any names come to mind?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Johnny Brito.
And yeah, maybe you could say a little bit more about him then.
Johnny Brito was a gentleman who worked in the Boys Club for years. He's an icon. If we had any trouble with a kid, all we had to do was say, we'll get Johnny, and they would go, okay. That was worse than almost, for some of them, just threatening to contact their mom or dad, because Johnny was in charge of the gym. He was a former Harlem Globetrotter, and he's Cape Verdean. And every year when the Harlem Globetrotters would do their tour, they would make a stop in Providence and they would come to the club and shoot baskets with the kids. So Johnny Brito was a big, he should have been made director of the Boys Club. He really should have. And he was gone over several times, to the point then I think he just didn't care, but whether he got the director's part. He was very active in the kids and looking after the kids. And again, he and his wife, Fama, treated all the kids like they were their own. And that was kind of a Fox Point feeling. You felt like you were part of the family. Everybody everybody would watch out for everybody else. There were a lot of people that would be sitting in the summer times on the front stairs or the front porch, and yeah, it was a nice community.
As you look back on your 32 years in the
Yeah.
Fox Point neighborhood and at the Fox Point Library, is there anything specific that you're particularly proud of having done?
Yeah, there's so many.
Well, name 2 or 3.
I remember one morning working at the desk, and this little boy had come in, and they didn't have much money, and he had found a pop-up book, and I said he could have it, but it was torn and needed repairing. So I took it, and as I was repairing it, I heard this noise, and then I could smell, you know how it smells when you light a cigarette? You know that smell, that there's
Yeah.
a unique smell. And I thought, oh, and I thought, as soon as I'm finished with this, I'm going to go check and see who's smoking out in that courtyard, because I'm going to go yell at them. Yvonne wasn't there then. She had, I think, maybe she hadn't left it, but it might have been. Anyways. And as I'm working on this, the little boy took a step back away from the desk. And I looked at him, and he had this funny look on his face. And I looked down, and his shirt was on fire. And I'm there behind the desk, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this kid's on fire in front of the desk. And I'm thinking, wanna come around? No. And I thought, I'll go around. It's like, I can't move that fast. And so finally I had him come close, and I just grabbed his shirt and bundled it up in my hands and smothered the flames. And he didn't get burned. His shirt had holes in it. My hand got burned, but that was okay. So that was one thing.
How did it get on fire?
Yeah, he found a lighter outside, and he was playing with the lighter in his pocket. And yeah, I kind of scolded him for that, but he was so terrified that I didn't do much. His mom came in, and then I explained to his mom, and then, yeah, she yelled at him. She did the yelling for me. I just, yeah. I think helping Yvonne connect more with the school and getting classes to come into the library for visits, and getting book deposits for the school. Teachers would call us up, and in fact, I have the book list. I was just looking at some of the stuff last night and thinking I ought to just contact the teachers, because I'm friends with them, and say, hey, here's your book list, so at least you can maybe order your own, or whatever. But we would get, if they were doing the Civil War, we would get music, we would get cookbooks, we would get juvenile books, we would get some adult books that had a lot of more pictures, those kind of wonderful books, and take them up to the school. And in so doing, those books were very heavy. And I mean, we're talking maybe 30, 40 books. So I came up with the idea of using a small wheeled suitcase. So I would pack the books in the suitcase, and I would drag the suitcase on the wheels up to the school and deliver books to the school. And that was a fun thing to do. Walk around the school made me feel very important, because everybody there knew me, and all the kids knew me, because the kids would come in the library, and it was that was a good thing. I was proud of that. Wedging the doors, I was really proud of that one. Curbing that. I don't know. I loved working for the library. I loved it. I had my disagreements with Dale and her handling of the library. PCL took over a heck of a job. I will clean that up nicely. What PCL has done with the buildings and everything is just, yeah, it's kept all the libraries open for all the people in all the neighborhoods, and that's so important for the children, for the seniors, just for the community. That's just, so yeah, I was in on that fight a bit, as you know, but
Yeah,
not
I
as much
know.
as you. But I was there.
You certainly were.
Just the Fox Point has changed a lot. When I first started working there, if you forgot your lunch, you went hungry. Until I learned I could go upstairs and beg a lunch from the senior center. Yeah, I would pay for it, but most of the time, Lori had always ordered enough. There was always an extra lunch or two. So watching when what was it, my daily bread, God, I can't think of what it was. That came on the corner of Wickenden and Hope. That came, and the other place was the Pizza Pie, but you couldn't eat pizza every day. So to see actual restaurants come into Fox Point where you could then walk and get a lunch, you know, that was the good part of Fox Point changing. The bad part was watching and seeing the neighbors move. I never had to worry about, even with some of the kids that were selling drugs. At first, like I said, I was scared. And Pauline Berkeley, who worked for the library as a clerk, came in and helped fill in for when Phyllis left. And one day she said to me, it was a hot kind of day in September, and she said, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And I said, "Outside?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Down the street?" And she said, "Yeah." And I remember I was terrified. And she said, I said, "No, let's stay in here. It's nice and cool in here," because the air conditioner was working well then. Not too many leaks. And I said, so then she said, "No, I'm going to go for a walk." And I thought, yeah, I can't let her go alone. So I went walking with her. And then as I'm walking down the street, everyone I saw in the street was people that came into the library. And it was like, I thought to myself, what the heck is your problem? You know all these people. What are you afraid of? And it was like, at that moment, that's when I really, truly fell in love with Fox Point, as far as the community itself. They always looked out for my car. If anyone saw anything, nothing ever happened to my car in Fox Point.